Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back on F124. And as you can see by the title of today's video, we're having a bit of a blast from the past. This is something I used to do on some of the old F1 games. I think really the games such as 2018, F1 2020 is trying to get as close as I can, if not beat the world record. And I thought, why not try it at Spain, since we had the recent Grand Prix there this weekend, which was a fairly entertaining one. But Spain is a track that is normally not a great track for me, so I would actually be very happy probably getting within half a second of the world record, which is held by Danny Beresnay, and the PlayStation world record is almost the same as the PC world record. But you can see, as always, we're going to go out with the stock setup, so no custom setup enabled at the moment, and you can just see the amount of understeer. So I'm giving myself normally an hour max to do this, so anything within an hour as well will be stopping, because I always recommend people to not overdo it in terms of learning a new muscle memory or trying to get better. I'd always give yourself probably a bit of time in between sessions, but for the purpose of these videos I always limit it to about an hour absolute maximum. This actually took me 40 minutes to do this attempt. I was quite happy with my final run, which you will see at the end. But yeah, you can see with the stock setup here, very understeery. So typically people using 50-42 wings. This is with 25 wings, and you can see we're always doing that flat out. But yeah, I like to always start with the stock setup. I know a lot of people think it's probably a little bit pointless, but for me, it just gives me a little bit of confidence. I feel like if I can get within 2 seconds of a world record using the stock setup, normally I gain about 1.5 to 2 seconds when using a custom setup on previous F1 games. So it actually gives me somewhat of a delta, which I will beat probably on my first lap when I use a custom setup. But it just kind of gets me into the groove of the track and gets me used to really the braking points, racing lines, although the car will feel very different. So this is actually my fastest lap that I did with the stock setup. So we've done a 13.0. I really wanted to dip into the 12s. If I could dip into the 12s and gain 2 seconds quite comfortably, then that's already going to put me within the ballpark of the world record. So yeah, this is my fastest lap that I did with the stock here. See, you can take this flat out, this turn 3, but there is just so much chronic understeer, turning the brake bias all the way down to 50%. And please let me know if you want me to do this for every single track. I will be showing the setup as well, so it's a bit of a hot lap and setup kind of guide, along with a genuine attempt to get as close as I can to this world record. And you will see I have used actually a little bit of a different setup to what the top guys were using. I actually went for a little bit more of a lower downforce, more stable setup. So I'll be explaining the reason why I made those changes and the reason why I feel it benefits me. And that's something I would actually encourage a lot of you guys to do as well, is don't just stick with the world record setup. Actually, sometimes making changes to suit your driving style can actually get more potential out of yourself. But again, if you'd like to see more of these videos for every single track, make sure to like the video. Helps me out a lot more than you know. And you can see this is my fastest lap, and we managed to do a 12.9 with the stock setup. So I was actually pretty satisfied with that. But as we head back into the garage, you can see 37,000 people have done this attempt, and we're going to load in ZE360 setup. He is the world record holder on PlayStation. You can see 50-42 wings. Everything else is pretty standard. The setup doesn't actually really change that much, apart from obviously the wings and the transmission. Most of the rest of the setup, other than that, like the geometry, suspension itself, obviously the brake bias can change a little bit, but the tyre pressures are pretty much almost locked in the same. So there isn't really much variation in this game, which is a little bit of a shame. But you can see this is going to be my first attempt with this setup. So coming straight out the pits, and you can see immediately straight line, we're going to be losing a little bit, but not as much as I thought. So I didn't really lose too much here, but you'll see going through this turn 1, taking it a bit easier on this first lap, but immediately you can just see the amount of grip. It's got so much grip that I have to be super smooth. And you can see we're almost half a second up going in this first sector. So 21.4 as a first attempt. You can see a couple of stabs at the steering wheel, so not carrying enough momentum, not understanding how much grip this setup has compared to the stock setup at this stage. So the more I get used to the setup, the more momentum, the more minimum speed that I'll be taking through the corners. And when I do my fastest lap at the end, I'll give you a bit of a run through of the reference points and what I'm thinking throughout the lap as well. But you can see already 1 second up, and this is a bit of a scruffy lap. Should be making up quite a bit of time going through here. So you can see again, just with that extra downforce, you just gain so much time, especially for this right hand. You can see the car wants to over rotate all the time. And going for this last corner as well, although I was able to do these flat out, you'll see with the high downforce, it's not scrubbing the tyres as much, and we actually gain quite a bit of time even with high downforce through there. And that was 11.2 as a first attempt, and I was actually pretty happy about as my very first attempt with a setup. But you can see on the very next lap, up a little bit, going towards the middle sector, I knew I could gain a lot of time through here. And around Catalunya, you do have to use the curbs quite a bit, which you'll see on my fastest lap as well, because the curbs kind of anchor you around the corners, help you grip around the corners, but it's very easy again to steer too much into the corner and then over rotate. So when you hit these curbs, you want to be opening up your steering wheel as quick as you can as well. But you can see we're 2 tenths up and already very close to getting within the 110s, which is normally a bit of a good sign. So for me personally, I feel like I normally get up to speed actually quite quickly. Within maybe 10 to 15 laps, I get to like 95%. And then to find that final 5%, it's just breaking that extra leg to taking that extra more risk with the traction, the turning in, all those things added up. So gaining, half a tenth for every single corner, something as little as that, maybe even a quarter of a tenth for every single corner. That's where the difference is really at the end. We can see we got into the 10s already. So yeah, so far so good. But I kind of hit a bit of a plateau with this setup. You can see we're very, very consistent. So we kept on doing like an 11.0, which kind of emphasizes again, I feel like I get up to speed fairly quickly. So yeah, you'll see that I do make a little bit of a setup adjustment, but we're going to stay on board with this lap because this was also another improvement. And you can see compared to my first lap, my earlier custom setup, you have to use the curb here to drag you in. But again, you don't want to keep steering into the corner. So when that curb is dragging you in, giving you more grip, if you keep on turning into the corner, you will actually just lose the car. So you've got to very subtly open up your wheel when these curbs drag you in. And going through this left-hander, really difficult left-hander, but I really like that corner. And going to again, you'll see I'm using the curb on the inside ever so slightly. Make sure you don't hit that yellow sausage curb on the exit. An easy flat out through this right-hander, getting this DRS zone. And you can see we're about 700s up on this lap, using the 100 meter ball going to this one. So you want to be using all the track, almost all the way to that white line. Get back over to that side as the curb ends. And this is a bit of a difficult corner. So you can see I go down to third gear. I do that on my fastest lap as well. That actually gives you a little bit extra rotation, which is something I haven't said for quite a while. For me, that actually is giving me more rotation when I do that. And you can see that was a 10.897. So after 10 laps, get down to the 10.8s. World record is a very high 3 or very low 4. So almost within 4 tenths of the world record. So I've already hit my goal. And you can see using more of the track here. Look how much time I just gained by doing that. But I actually then lost out on the exit. So again, you can't have a purple sector every sector. You've got to start understanding. The more laps you do, you've got to start understanding which part of the corner you need to compromise to get a better overall result. And you can see that was a 0.872. So slowly making some gains. But I felt like I stayed with that setup enough and felt like I could actually tweak it to kind of suit my driving style a little bit more. So you see Danny Beresne is a 0.3. Zelly's done a 0.3 as well. So Zelly's actually second overall. And I think a good goal for me would be to get into the top 50 in the world overall. I think that would be a pretty solid effort. So I'm actually going to change the setup now, because I'm someone who likes a bit of stability, and I also like low downforce as well. So obviously time trial, you get the benefit of the DRS, ERS being unlimited. So I'm actually going to make this a little bit softer. That's actually going to give me a little bit more stability. 21, that's going to give me more stability on the roll bar. And you'll see I'm actually going to lower the wings a little bit, so a little bit faster in a straight line, because I feel like one of my strengths is actually maintaining the momentum through the corner. So it's not about attacking the corners, it's about maintaining good momentum, good consistency all the time. So yeah, I've actually made the setup more stable in some areas, and some people will think, well, that's not going to give you more performance, but actually sometimes making part of the setup more stable allows you to attack more when you're driving. So if the car is very loose and there's too much over rotation in some parts of the set because there's actually too much grip. Sometimes it doesn't allow you to maximize it. Whereas for me in the past, sometimes I've actually made the setup a little bit more stable, arguably more understeery. So yeah, on a perfect lap, it's probably going to cost me some time. But for me, it allows me to be on the throttle more aggressively, turn in more aggressively, and then actually that being more stable weirdly gives me more lap time. And you can already see, this is my first lap with the setup. We were quite a bit faster in the straight line, just getting used to it here. So I'll be showing you a couple laps in a row. I could really feel I was able to be a lot more aggressive with my inputs, because sometimes I tend to be a little bit too smooth, which sometimes doesn't really work that well when I have a bit of a loose setup. But you can see again, we've lost a little bit of time here, but you'll see with that straight line speed, look at the speed we're going to gain through this last corner. You can see we're actually gaining quite a bit of time. So I knew if I could be going green into sector 3, that we'd actually have a good chance. So we're going to go for another lap here. Just give ourselves normally 5 to 10 laps per change, just to see if I can get used to it. I wouldn't be changing after one lap, and you can already see made a bit of gain here, using the curb again, so staying as tight as possible, minimise the distance off the track here, absolutely crucial. We're almost half a tenth up, going to here, but you can see the throttle, really aggressive on the throttle. That's because of the roll bars. The roll bars during middle of the corner, or probably like the highest grip point of the corner, that is giving me more stability, so it actually allows me to kind of throttle much more. So when you do have that understanding of the setups, you can actually tailor it to your needs. So I will be doing a setup explanation video, something I've done on previous games. But you can see again, we're actually going green, so this is exactly what I wanted, going to here. So I'm going to really throw the car in here and really aggressive on the front to keep it nice and tight still. It's still green again. I know I'm going to lose a little bit of time here with the rotation, so third gear, extra rotation, and then really smash the throttle, but a little bit too aggressive for that occasion. So I know for next time, not be quite as aggressive for that, but you can see we're still within half a tenth of our PB despite that mistake. So I knew there was actually quite a bit of time still in this lap. But you can see again, we're going green into sector 3, so almost pretty much identical to what I was on the previous lap. So we've done about 16 laps here now, so getting into it again, and yeah, really mashing the throttles to keeping it tight. I knew I could gain time here, so it's going for this corner. This is why I really need to be crucial on the throttle, keeping it nice and tight. Lost a little bit on the exit, but I know with that straight line speed, I should be gaining some of it back. And you can see it's going in green, going through this last corner. And now, because that straight line speed, we are actually going to improve the time, and that is a 0.850. But again, I felt like there was still quite a bit of time available. But so far, I think after around 30 minutes at this point, I was actually pretty satisfied. We were in the top 100 worldwide. On PlayStation, we were pretty high level. So we're going to make a final adjustment again. So you can see making some changes here, increasing the off throttle. Like that stops the car from over rotating when you're going off the throttle. So I've made the wings a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more pointy. So to counter that a little bit, I've actually made the off throttle more stable. But this is actually my fastest lap now. So let's see what we can do. So going into this turn 1, felt very confident with the setup. So going into here, really driving the car. So actually using quite a bit of the curves through turn 1, turn 2. Managing to do it really nicely. Use the curb to hook yourself around this corner. Minimize the distance of the track. And you can see about 200s up on this lap so far. Just before the 50, really throwing it in. Get on the throttle as early as can. Use all the track at the exit. Managing to do that quite well. Just before the 50 going to here. So a bit of a late apex. Slow in, fast out approach. And we did that really well. Maintaining a lot of minimum speed. Want to be kissing the curb on the inside here and not using too much to cover the outside. And you can see we've actually made a pretty big gain, so this is really good so far. I knew there was quite a bit of time to find in this last sector as well, so just after the 100 meter spot, really throwing the car into here. Try and keep it nice and tight in the exit, don't let it go too out wide. Use a lot of tracks to go into here, drop it down to third, just get a little bit extra rotation and really mash the throttle. And you can see, look at the exit, we've got a really strong exit. Completely flat out for this last corner. You can see well over a tenth up, so managing to do this really well. And they're going across the line. That's going to be a 10.717, so very close to a 6. I was actually really happy with that, considering I haven't been able to play the game that much recently as well. This track is typically not a very strong track for me. I was actually really satisfied with that. And you can see, we got on the leaderboards, that was actually enough for top 40 in the world. So it's not actually that far away from the world record. And based off that lap, Though with the setup being lower on the downforce as well, we're going to be losing it a little bit in Sector 1, Sector 2. I was actually really, really happy with that. So top 15 on PlayStation. I can see quite a few players have done it as well. So I'll go showcase my setup. This is one that I'm going to be using online. I think having a little bit of a low downforce setup has been working really well for me. So 50-37 wings, so quite a bit lower downforce on the rear. Higher with the off throttle, you can see all the way to the left, 41, 21, 21, 22, 57. A little bit of a different ride height, 50, 54, sorry, 154. And the maximum tire pressures, that's something that doesn't really change too much. But that was my attempt to get as close as I could to the world record at Spain. I was actually pretty happy with that. To do that within 40 minutes, I thought like that was actually a pretty good attempt. But hopefully that has helped you out. Let me know if it was entertaining and you want me to do this for the rest of the tracks as well. This is something I actually enjoy doing quite a lot. Something I haven't done for quite a while. So I'll leave you with this. Thank you so much. And I'll be catching you very, very soon. Peace.